What until recently seemed unthinkable is now becoming a reality. Thousands, hundreds of thousands, and even millions of European citizens are seriously considering leaving the continent that once saw them born. The reasons are neither fear nor simple, from the steady yet silent advance of Agenda 2030 to the looming threat of a commercial war or even a direct conflict with Russia, all the way to the cultural, fiscal, digital and societal transformation that is refacing Europe from the ground up. What's most concerning is that many still fail to see it coming, because this is not just a soft reform of the system, it's a complete reconfiguration of the social, economic and cultural contract that has defined European life for generations. And this transformation is not being carried out with the consent of the people, but in the name of a so-called progress narrative that more and more citizens are beginning to question. That's why this analysis won't be sugarcoated. We won't sweeten what is happening, we are going to say what many think but few dare to say aloud. This is not just another video, it is a structured warning grounded in data, logic and context. We are going to break down one by one the key pillars collapsing in Europe, and that will soon force millions to consider a single way out, escaping before it's too late. And no, what's coming won't be pretty, but understanding it is the first step toward protecting yourself, taking action and building a life outside the system. Because as you already know, this won't make you happy, but it will make you free. One of the oldest pillars of the European welfare state is crumbling at full speed, the pension system. And it's not just saying this. Official reports, international agencies, actuarial models and even the government themselves are acknowledging it. Although they struggle to mask the severity of the situation, the root of the problem is demographic. Europe is aging quickly and there are no longer enough active workers to support the growing numbers of retirees. In countries like Spain, Italy, France or Greece, the ratio is alarming. For each retiree, there are barely 2 contributing workers, and that number continues to decline year after year. What has been the political response? No direct reforms, just temporary fixes, gradually raising the retirement age to 70 years, penalizing early retirement even in cases of poor health, changing the pension calculation to include your entire work life, not just the highest earning years, and over 40 years of contributions to qualify for a decent pension. And perhaps the most outrageous measure, if someone dies after contribution for a lifetime, the state keeps the fund. No inheritance, no reimbursement. Nothing. This is not a disinflow, it's a calculated political strategy. And yes, it's hard to say. Many viewers of our previous videos criticize this, and I understand why, but the truth is that retirees often vote in bloc. A mere €5 pension increase can translate into millions of votes. Who foots the bill? Your generation, your children's generation, and those who haven't even born yet. Whether out of ignorance or self-interest, voters need to be fully aware of the long-term consequences. What was once a model of intergenerational solidarity has now become a pyramid scheme disguised as a public system, and if you are asking whether there is still a way to fix it, the honest answer is I don't think so. There are only 2 options. You resign yourself to playing the game, or you start looking for a path outside the system. If there is one area where Europe has shifted from seduction to punishment, it's taxation. What used to be sold as solidarity and social justice has become a web of demands, audits and sanctions that suffocates both entrepreneurs and the average worker. By the mid-20s, the European Union decided that tax competition between countries must disappear. The solution? Scaling the taxes at the top. This means that each year, new directives and agreements are passed to enforce a global minimum tax of 15% for companies, even in countries that once had low corporate taxes, like Cyprus, a baseline between 21 and 23%, eliminating local exceptions, removing tax benefits for digital nomads or international investors, as already happened with Portugal's non-habitual regime, or Bulgaria's simplified system for freelancers, require all EU tax residents to report every digital asset and foreign bank account using tools like the CRS, MiCA Law, DAC 8, and the newly introduced CARF. But what's most worrying is not what has already been enacted, it's what's quietly being prepared. Europe is moving toward a system where all digital income will be automatically reported to the country where you hold tax residency. That includes cryptocurrencies, affiliate income, royalties, earning from platforms like YouTube, Fiverr, OnlyFans, and they will do it whether or not you declare them, whether or not you even know it, thanks to automatic cross-referring between platforms, banks, digital IDs, and tax addresses. What happens when this is combined with mandatory e-voicing and the rollout of the digital euro? There is no escape. And the next step may be borrowing a policy from the US, taxing citizenship based solely on passport ownership. It wouldn't matter if you earn no income inside the EU, the passport alone would tax link you to Europe. These measures have already been formally debated. They are not in effect yet, but they are closer than ever. That's why more and more people are doing what once seemed extreme, renouncing their citizenship or securing a second passport to protect themselves in case the EU decides to lock all doors from the inside. And let's be realistic, European passports are still the most powerful in the world. If you are watching this from Spain, as me, I'm Spanish, you hold a passport that many would pay millions for. So if you consider giving it up, make sure it's because you have a solid plan, through ancestry, birthright from your children, investment or naturalization. Choose wisely. Europe has been promising a green transition for years. On paper, it sounds great, a more sustainable, resilient and environment-conscious economy, but as is often the case with grand institutional narratives, the problem isn't what they say, it's how they implement it. Because the reality of this climate agenda is not a fight to save the planet, but a mechanism of control and economy restructuring that benefits the interests of large tech and energy corporations. These measures are no longer proposals, they are facts. Let's look at some of the key actions already approved or in progress under the European Green Deal, a complete ban on the sale of internal combustion vehicles by the year 2035. Hybrid vehicles are also under scrutiny. Mandatory overhaul of domestic energy systems. By 2030, homes that don't meet minimum energy efficiency standards will no longer be allowed to be sold. Carbon tax for private households. Already approved under ETS2, it will apply to heating, transportation, and home energy consumption. Ban on products with high environmental impact from textiles to home appliances. Mandatory inspection and replacement of gas boilers. By 2040, all must be replaced with electric system or heat pumps. Under the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, all older homes must be renovated. Non-compliance will be led to penalties, restrictions on renting, or even a ban on sale. Meanwhile, in the European Parliament, buildings remain fully air-conditioned 24 hours a day, ministers continue flying in private jets, while the average citizen is expected to sacrifice. This isn't about ecology, it's about using ecology as a pretext to rewrite the rules of capitalism, favoring those who already control the system. Also, many still believe that the digitalization of money is merely a technical upgrade, a shift toward efficiency, a modern way to pay, but that belief is naive. What is being built is not innovation, it's domination. CBDCs or central bank digital currencies are not cryptocurrencies, they are not decentralized, they are not private, and most importantly, they do not belong to you. This is programmable money, money with conditions, money under surveillance, money that can be traced, frozen, or invalidated based on your behavior. Has already begun implementation. The digital euro is not a theory, it's a published roadmap with clear dates, phases, and funding. Here is what we know. In 2021, the investigation phase began. In 2023, they moved into legislative design. By 2025 and 2026, pilot programs will launch in southern European countries, including Spain. By 2027 or 2028, it may become an optional method for public payments. By 2030, it could become mandatory for state-related transactions like pensions, benefits, and public salaries. This may sound technical, but the implications are massive. If approved, the euro will no longer be a freely usable currency. It will become a behavioral programming tool on a continental scale. What does programmable money mean in practice? Your digital euros could expire if not spent within a certain time frame. They could be limited to specific product categories. Transfers might be blocked if you exceed a set threshold. Transactions could be halted automatically if you breach environmental or tax criteria. All of this will be tied to your European digital identity, EID. Without it, you won't be able to send or receive digital euros. You won't be able to interact with the financial system. In effect, you will cease to exist economically. And no, this is not a conspiracy theory. It is spelled out in official EU Commission's documents, which state that the digital euro should encourage sustainable consumption habits and responsible citizenship. In other words, this is a veiled European social credit system. People often look at China's points-based system in fear, but what Europe is building is more refined, a system of silent exclusion. They don't need to downgrade your score, they just restrict access. You can rent, you can apply for ID, you can secure a loan, certain functions in your digital wallet become inactive. Why? Because of your digital history, your purchases, your web searches, your social opinions, your environmental and tax profile. What about cash? Cash is the last stronghold of freedom, and that's why they want it gone. Some restrictions that they are already being implemented. In Spain, cash payments between individuals are limited to 1,000 euros. In France, many transactions over 500 euros in cash are now illegal. In Italy, Brussels blocked efforts to raise the cash payment ceiling. In Germany, while still allowed, public campaigns are linking cash use to tax evasion and terrorism. What's next between 2025 and 2030? Full integration of digital payments into public service, cash restricted to isolated rural areas, cash formally relegated to a secondary payment option, continued public messaging associating cash with crime and corruption. If they succeed, absolutely everything will be recorded. Your groceries, your books, your travel routes, your entertainment, your beliefs. And if you ever step out of line, no one needs to arrest you. All it takes is shutting off your financial tap. Because in this digital system, your money is no longer yours. You merely have permission to use it until that permission is revoked. At this point, some might think, if things go wrong with Europe, I can always leave. But that option is also being systematically dismantled. The natural next step in a system that seeks to control everything is to ensure that its citizens cannot leave. And the European Union has spent years quietly tightening the legal, financial and migratory assets available to its population. One of the most popular tools for wealthy individuals to create a plan B was the Golden Visa, residency through investment in real estate or funds in another country, but these programs are being shut down. Ireland has already cancelled its Golden Visa, Spain has already cancelled its Golden Visa, Portugal has hollowed it out, real estate is no longer valid, only government-approved investment funds remain, and even this may be curtailed soon. Similarly, Portugal's non-habitual residency regime, long a haven for foreigners seeking a 10-year tax break, was abolished in 2024 after EU pressure. If Portugal, which relied on tax attractiveness to draw newcomers, caves in, then no country is safe from EU intervention. Meanwhile, the EU is actively discouraging economic migration from outside the bloc, especially for high net worth individuals. Brussels has already pressured several countries, like Cyprus, Moldova, North Macedonia, Malta, to dismantle their CBI programs, even if those programs were fully legal and financially sound. Now they have turned their attention to the Caribbean. The EU is pushing for a blacklist of convenient citizenship that includes countries like Dominica, St. Kitts and Nevis, Grenada, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Lucia, and just weeks ago, the European Commission signaled its intent to revoke Schengen visa-free access for passport holders from those nations, even when the passports were acquired legally. The message is clear: you can buy a second passport, but we can still make it worthless if we want to. Escaping Europe is no longer about booking a flight, it's about breaking free from institutional dependency. And that means security tax residency in another jurisdiction, acquiring a second passport, setting up international banking and business structures, acting proactively before each legal exit is shut down. But it's not just the financial and legal exodus that's being constrained. There is a deeper existential threat growing in silence. Europe is dying demographically. Europe is not just graying, it's shrinking. Fertility rates are plummeting. And the most tragic part? Governments know it, and they are doing nothing because they simply don't care. The data is undeniable. In Spain, fertility sits at 1.2 children per woman. In Italy, fewer than 400,000 births occurred in 2023, a record low. In Germany, for 3 consecutive years, there have been more funerals than births. Hungary and Poland, which implemented pro-family policies, have been punished by Brussels for doing so. The replacement rate required to sustain a population is 2.1 children per woman. No European country comes close, and there is no plan to reverse this. What do governments do instead? They criminalize motherhood, they glorify abortion as empowerment, they promote infertility by body image culture, hormonal suppression, and lifestyle trends. They dismantle the traditional family as a stable unit. A society without children has no future. But worse, it becomes submissive, it becomes fatigued, it becomes in debt, it becomes easily manipulated. That is exactly the citizen profile the system is designed to produce, a population that relies entirely on the state. Meanwhile, education systems have abandoned critical thinking. Schools now produce obedient agents of ideology. Children are indoctrinated with gender, climate, and diversity narratives from as early as 3 years old. Classical subjects like philosophy, history, and Latin are being removed. Emotional and sexual education is outsourced to NGOs with minimal parental oversight. Teachers are sanctioned for using traditional language. Parents lose custody if they oppose gender transitions endorsed by schools. All of this is legislated, not optional. Europe has surrendered its children to ideology, not any ideology, but one designed to erase roots, dismantle tradition, and weaken family bonds. Because a population without identity is far easier to manipulate. Added to this existential crisis is the policy of unchecked mass immigration, pursued without integration or cultural alignment. The data again speaks volumes. In Paris, over 40% of minors come from non-European families. In cities like Brussels, Malmö, or Marseille, immigration birth rates already outpace those of the native population. In parts of Spain, half of all social aid recipients are foreign-born. In Germany, over 70% of migrants who arrived in 2015 remain without a stable employment. This is not about individuals, it's about a model, massive influx of assimilated populations funded by taxpayers, while the native culture is sidelined. At the same time, we see policies like automatic citizenship by birthright usuries, special subsidies for integration housing, designated neutral zones where local laws are suspended in favor of cultural accommodation, financial penalties for nations that reject refugee quotas, social and legal persecution of citizens who defend their borders, culture, or traditions. Europe has shifted from celebrating diversity to erasing its own culture in order to not offend others. This is not multiculturalism, this is cultural self-erasure. After all this, some still say, you are exaggerating, Europe isn't that bad, but the truth is, it's an aging society, with no children, with no property, with no privacy, under constant surveillance. Fully taxed and regulated, re-educated from childhood, and every exit is slowly closing. Europe is no longer the land of your grandparents, nor the cradle of your values, nor the future of your children. It has become a globalist experiment disguised as progress. The aim is not to run from your country, but to break your dependency of the European system. That means changing your tax residency, securing a second passport, diversifying assets like property, stable currencies, metals, crypto, moving your finances outside of CRS, building relationships outside Europe, creating community with like-minded people, because freedom is not isolation. Freedom is surrounding yourself with others who are free. You may not agree with everything said here, that's perfectly fine, but if you have read this far, something inside you knows this is serious. The real question is no longer, should I leave? The real question is, how much longer will I wait? Every month that passes, it becomes harder to live. Every new law is another trap. Every step you don't take is a freedom lost. And if you wait too long, one day you will look back and say, I should have left when I still could. Some ask, how can I escape if I don't have the means? I understand. I can solve every obstacle for you, but I can tell you this, solve real problems, and money will follow. People always need something. Use your skills, offer value, and generate income. It may take time, but it's possible. Others ask, what's the best country to flee to? That depends on your priorities. If it's about lowering taxes, move to a territorial tax country. If you want to avoid Agenda 2030 ideology, find nations that resist it. If you believe in staying and fighting, fair enough. But don't expect consensus in an era of endless digital distractions. Even I spend half the day in front of a screen, it fries your brain, makes you lose clarity and keeps you in a loop where you no longer know what you want. Now that you have the information, do what you want. I will continue building my path. Just know this, beyond whoever governs your country, there are still options. Those options are shrinking. The way of life is changing. We are entering a more digital era, and adaptation is necessary. If you need help securing residency permits, reducing your taxes, acquiring second passport through investment, descent, or naturalization, or if you need banking solution for a high-risk business, feel free to fill out the form in the description. If we can help you, we will get in touch, show your options, and see if it fits. If not, no worries. Take care and let's move forward.